Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Shafer, your host of Talks with Dr. Shafer. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm a physician, life coach, musician, author, and I am passionate about storytelling as a tool to help you reclaim and reframe your story so that you can move forward and build your most beautiful future. Today, I am so grateful to have back our wonderful guest. She's an author, therapist, and a social worker, Caitlin Sigouin. Thank you so much for coming back for part 2 of our special on learning how to use your emotions, embrace them to empower yourself and your children.
Yes, thank you so much for having me back. I'm so happy to be here again.
I think we should start the show with an exciting development that has occurred since we last spoke.
Yes,
Drum
I received
roll.
my author copy of my book. So I'm
Oh,
really
it's
happy to show
beautiful.
that to you today. Isn't that a beautiful cover?
It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a
And the
rainbow of
illustrations are
feelings.
just here. I'll see if I can find one of my favorite illustrations showing all the different emotions.
Oh, I
Isn't
love
that
that. Can
beautiful?
can it get like a
Yeah,
tiny closer? I want to see their
yeah,
faces. I love that they have faces.
yeah.
And do the faces reflect the state that you wanted to convey with each color?
Yeah, so in this image, it's Tito feeling all of his feelings sort of swirling around in his body, coming back to him. So it's really representative. I feel like it really captures how our emotions are present and they sort of have different personalities of their own almost, different ways that we feel, different facial expressions. Yeah.
I really love that. And I love
Mm.
that it's kind of, it sets children up to understand a concept that I think we struggle with even as adults, that you are not, monochromatic. You have all
No,
of these different parts of your personality and they can be in the room at the same time.
absolutely. And we can hold space for all of those. We can still feel joy, even if part of us is angry about something different, or if we're sad, to still feel happiness about something else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
beautiful. That makes me think of something that's kind of odd that often comes up in movies and cinema, how
Mm.
someone will be in a really traumatic moment and they'll start
Hmm.
laughing.
Right. And I think often this is our discomfort without knowing how to express those emotions. And I mean,
Mhm.
trauma is it's such a huge impact that I think often the system is in shock and doesn't know how to respond. So
Exactly.
sometimes that laughter, I think, is just, I'm uncomfortable. I'm trying to process this. I don't really know even where to begin with this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
why it's beautiful, people like you who are working not only with your patients to help them with acknowledging and embracing and regulating their emotions, but also bringing it to a broader audience through your illustrated children's book, A Rainbow of Feelings.
Absolutely. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. I recognize that therapy is not accessible for everybody. There's a huge cost factor. Not everybody has benefits. With being able to offer virtual therapy right now, we can reach people who live in different places that may not
Mhm.
have therapists in person to go to, but it's still, there are barriers for people with accessing it. And so I'm
Yeah.
hoping through mediums like my book that we can get these messages out and reach a much wider audience. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It seems like the perfect opportunity also to do things like school readings or library readings. Are you planning on
Yes.
doing anything like that?
I'm hoping to. Yes, that's definitely on my list to approach schools and to bring my book to libraries and try to
Yeah.
donate. And yeah, I would love to see it everywhere. Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Or even just like an online reading of maybe a chapter just to introduce it. I love that. And I love
Oh, I love that idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I love the coloring page too, how that just kind of shares the book and it becomes more real, more tactile for the reader.
Absolutely. And again, takes it in a different direction. I don't think I had mentioned last time, but I'm doing up with a teacher friend of mine lesson plans with the book. So from kindergarten up until grade 6, and they'll be free to download as well. So anybody who's a teacher who homeschools, parents who just want to print them off, use them as an activity to talk about social emotional learning with their kids, they'll
Yeah.
be available for everybody to use.
I love that so much. And it makes me just think we talked about it. I keep like plugging my daughter's show, not really on purpose, but I get so excited sometimes.
Absolutely.
I
I'm
think that
waiting
would
for her.
be, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
She'll be giving you a call. I'll have her agent call
absolutely.
your agent.
That sounds perfect. My
That's
agent
me.
who's yeah, I was gonna say my agent, my 8-year-old son. Yeah.
Exactly. I'll call your
Yeah,
8-year-old son and
yeah,
we'll work something out.
absolutely. He set me up with the headphones for today, so yeah,
See,
yeah,
it's handy having an agent. Yeah, I'm her hair girl.
absolutely.
And I'm like, I don't
Ah,
have a hair girl for my show. It
I love
seems
that.
wrong. But you don't appreciate it when you're 10. You're like, stop touching.
Stop touching it. Let me, it's fine. Yeah,
Exactly. It's
yeah,
fine. It's fine.
yeah.
But that's great because it's just another opportunity to allow her to, have her autonomy and her personhood. But no, I
Yeah,
think it would be wonderful to have a discussion because I think having, a child ask questions and do the coloring, which she's
absolutely.
loves doing the coloring.
I
And
would
that
love
is,
that.
yeah, thank you. That is something that she and I started doing recently that I found
Oh, that's fun.
a really calming activity for us and connecting
Mm-hmm.
activity to
Mm-hmm.
watch YouTube videos of how
Mm.
to, because I'm not a natural illustrator myself, um, YouTube videos of how to draw something and do it together.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
a really nice bonding activity. Yeah.
It is. It is. And so I love that you've created worksheets that go with a book
Mm-hmm.
that parents can then take it the next step and further connect with the idea of the color of emotions.
Absolutely. And I think too, parents, we want to do these types of activities. We want to bring these resources to our kids. But again, we don't always know where to start or what to do. And again, sometimes the resources are quite expensive. So I'm
Hmm.
hoping by making the sheets downloadable for free, again, people will be able to go on and just access them and use them. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, we will definitely
Hmm.
be downloading them and enjoying them in our household. And I recommend everyone else do it because it's such a cool activity to do together
Amazing.
and really connecting. Why do you think it is so valuable for kids and parents to be able to have examples like your books and other literature where they can see themselves in it as they're learning about their emotions and how to regulate them?
Yeah, I think growing up again, not all of us have an example of how to express emotions in a positive way. If we think back to our childhoods, we can probably picture our parents, maybe being angry or being upset and it feeling maybe scary or just, we didn't want to present our emotions in a similar way. So I'm really hoping that by having resources like my book, families can connect with it and say, you know what, it's okay to feel anger, and I don't need to yell to express anger. I can say, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. I need to take maybe a break from this conversation right now and use some techniques to de escalate myself and come back to it. But it's okay to be feeling that emotion.
That is
Yeah.
so important to give yourself permission and then
Hmm.
by proxy, give your children permission to have a relationship with their entire self, not to lock away a part of their self. Like, I am ashamed to be angry. I am ashamed to have fear. I'm,
Right.
ashamed to not meet these expectations. And so I'm just going
Hmm.
to put on a face. I'll always be happy. I'll always, just show up as I was saying the other day, like I was talking about Taylor Swift's song, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Have you heard this one
Right.
yet?
I haven't. I'm not a Swiftie.
Oh, it's so
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a
I
good
want to
one.
hear, I want you to listen to it and get back to me and tell me your thoughts on it.
Definitely
Um,
will.
the dissonance of this person who is heartbroken, as we all have been
Mm,
at some point in our life for a variety of reasons, and they're
mm.
having to perform and smile as if it's their birthday every
Right,
day. And
right,
you just feel the pain of that. And at the end of the song, she says, she's miserable and no one even knows. And
right.
you just feel the pain, and the background music is just this bop. And it's just such a
Yeah.
great example of what it feels like and what happens to a person when they are forced to live in this just facade of a reality where everything's always fine and you're not allowed to be angry, you're not allowed to be sad.
Do you know, I think that this is really because when we think of people who we find out down the road that they're depressed or that they've been having some of these feelings, it's always, everybody is shocked and sort of that person, because again, the image that we have is probably this very smiling, very happy, but often that's a mask that people are wearing and hiding behind because we think that that's sort of the only safe emotion to be expressing. And I
Right.
think very much by normalizing that, no, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay that you're feeling fearful. It doesn't mean that we need to let those emotions sort of control and dictate our life. We can be feeling fearful and do something anyways, but we can give space to that fear and recognize that it's there. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love the word you used, safe. And I think
Mm.
that's the most important thing is when
Hmm.
someone is displaying an emotion that's outside of the happy ones. They're sad, they're angry, they're in a breakdown. Just think about the child that's having a breakdown at the store.
Yeah.
Your job still in that moment is just to keep them safe, not to make it
Absolutely.
stop. Yeah.
Yeah. And safe
Yeah.
emotionally too.
Mhm.
Because I think safe physically, but safe emotionally. And I think sometimes, unintentionally, when we give that message, stop crying, why are
Mhm.
you upset? You shouldn't be upset about this. What the child hears is that they're not okay. They should be changing themselves. And we want to make them feel and make them know that, yes, it's okay to be upset that I'm saying, no, you can't have this chocolate bar. Doesn't mean we're going to buy this chocolate bar or whatever it is, but it's
Right.
okay to have that feeling about it.
And I
Yeah.
think one way that I think about it, because I was definitely a people pleaser and I was raised to be, very good and, as most
Mm,
of us were, right? Um,
absolutely.
and sure, in the short term, did that make nights calmer and quieter? And I was like a very well behaved child. Yes. But there are downstream consequences of that. So if you're teaching
Yeah.
young boys and girls that they can't say no, that they can't have feelings, they can't be upset, with you, for example, if you that was modeled for you in parenting, that you must, you got to really walk a straight line and toe the line in the family, and I'm the head of the family and everyone listens to me and asks no questions. Okay.
Hmm.
So you're
Hmm.
doing that in your family and you think it's working. But what happens when that child is approached by someone who has nefarious intentions for them and they
Yeah.
need to say no, but that person is older than them or seems to be in a position of power, or even if it's a man and it's a girl, right? So already they're in a position of power
Yeah.
and they don't think they're allowed to say no.
Absolutely. And we want kids knowing that they can say no and that their boundaries are important and that people should be listening and respecting those boundaries. And
Right.
again, that doesn't mean that we need to let kids sort of make decisions and have no structure because structure keeps kids safe, but they
Hmm.
can say no to us and we can have a discussion about it.
Right. And they can
And
say,
again,
I'm angry. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can be angry it's bedtime, but it's still bedtime. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, because if
Yeah.
you say, "No, you can't be angry," they go to bed and they still don't sleep because they're just laying in bed angry.
Yeah. And, I often think of the expression, a well behaved child is not necessarily emotionally safe. And a
Mhm.
safe child, a safe emotionally safe child will not always be well behaved.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. And yeah, I've definitely seen that play out. My oldest is definitely a people pleaser, and
Mm,
we've done a lot of work to
mm,
empower her
mhm,
to really stand in her own. And I
mhm,
will say, having a wild child of a little brother who is much more, it comes very natural to him to stand in his
mm,
own, has had a
mhm,
good influence on her. And
mhm.
in that dynamic of brother sister, it's like sink or swim, right? I
Right,
got to stand up
right.
for myself, sink or swim. And that has been helpful for her to learn how to actually
Mm,
speak her emotions. And I initially, when they'd get really loud with each other,
mhm.
I would kind of have to take a step back from wanting to control the situation and say,
Right.
hey, no, don't feel that way. You don't hate your brother. You know what I mean? When they
Yeah.
get really dysregulated. And that's not necessarily the best way to handle that.
We often learn how to problem solve with our siblings and in our family of origin. So, giving them the opportunity and sort of being on the sidelines to step in and sometimes help them navigate the conversation. So, sometimes coming back and, okay, I hear you saying that you're really angry about what happened. Your brother's been playing with this for the past hour and now you want to turn. So, what do you think we could do about that? And if they're really sort of stuck, we could say, "Do you think you could ask if you want to turn?" And it's okay to
Hmm.
give them prompts like that
Yeah.
if they're stuck, but we really want them to be able to navigate the situation. Yeah.
Exactly. That's such
Yeah.
excellent advice. And I certainly
Mm.
try that with my kids, but it takes a lot of intentionality
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
lot of energy. And I think that's where it comes back to something we talked about in the first part of our part two series of you really have to kind of come back and come back to your emotional regulation, kind of reparent yourself
Yeah.
and learn about your reactions just to make sure you're showing up the best in those moments. If you never go back and examine yourself, it's going to be really hard to show up in that moment when the knee jerk reaction is just to shut down the emotion.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's okay as a parent too. I mean, sometimes I very much with my kids will do this. And my kids will say, "What are you doing?" And I'll say, "I'm feeling myself getting frustrated. So I'm
Mhm.
taking a breath to manage my frustration." And this is very different. They can accept that. And what I'm hoping to role model is that when they're feeling frustrated, instead of hitting their brother, instead of saying, you're this or you're that, or grabbing something, that they're going to take that moment and take a breath too and notice that frustration inside of themselves. It's very
That's amazing.
different, as a parent than saying, like, you're frustrating me, which again, we don't want to do because we're not taking responsibility for how we're feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love
Mhm.
that, and I think it also
Mhm.
you're managing the emotions and you're also modeling just yourself as a human
Absolutely.
instead of as this just controlling authoritative figure in their life. And that just gives them another example, a human example that they can model from.
Yeah. One thing that I hear that just made me think of one thing I hear from parents quite often is this sense of, wanting to be the perfect parent all the time. And I always say we're not setting a good example for our kids by doing that either, because we want
Exactly.
to role model having these difficult emotions
Yeah.
ourselves. I mean, if our kids see us as just being these Zen, non reactive beings, they're not going to learn how to navigate those situations either. And then they're going
Yeah.
to compare themselves to us and say, well, my mom never gets angry. So why am I getting angry? Is there something wrong with me? Yeah,
And then the shame, and then, and nothing good comes of that shame spiral.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. And yes, I think it's harder to notice when your kids are really young, but then once they're,
Mm,
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, teenage years, and if you've been putting on this veneer and not been honest about
mhm,
the humanity of what it is to be a mom, to be a parent, in an appropriate, regulated way, then they
mhm.
think you've got it all together and they just shame themselves for feeling like, why can't I have it together like my mom or like my dad?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One video I saw on TikTok that I wanted to discuss with you that I thought was really a funny example of the opposite of what you are trying to encourage people to do. There was, these funny comedic
Yeah.
shorts where a grown man, but he's supposed to be the kid, is in the back seat, and he's like, they just get, to the away game for soccer, and he's like, I forgot my cleats at home, my special shoes, and mom's like, and he says, are you angry? Kind of scared, right? And she's like,
Right.
no, I'm not angry. You can hear from her voice and see in her body language that she's very angry,
Yeah.
but she doesn't want him to say it. And her words and her body language and her tone are not matching at all. And he's just sitting in the back seat like, you sound kind of angry, Mom. No, I'm not. And I think that's not necessarily helpful to just mask
Yeah.
your emotions when you're upset with your kids.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's not that we want that mom either turning around and yelling and saying, yes, I'm angry you for. No, but I mean, it's okay for her to turn around and say, you know what, I am feeling a little bit frustrated. You know, I, your cleats aren't here. We need them for the game. It's okay that you forgot. We all make mistakes. Um, but it is okay for her to say, I am feeling a little bit frustrated. And again, not to put that frustration on the kid, but to just recognize that it's present. Because
Mhm.
again, I think for our kids, when we're saying, no, I'm not angry, it's fine, and we're, no, it's fine, and they're hearing the tone in our voice, they're seeing that our body language is maybe more rigid or tense, they're getting a confusing message. And then for them to then learn their own emotions. Okay, I'm getting tense in my body, but my mom said that this is an anger, so maybe I'm fine,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Or this person is getting tense with me and I'm sensing some type of a sharp tone, but I've been told that that's not anger. So what emotion is this? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly, and that doesn't lead to safety long term in relationships
No,
and out in the world.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Which is really our goal with our kids. We get stuck and, we want to problem solve in these moments, but our ultimate goal
Hmm.
is that they are safe and go out as healthy individuals into the world.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to set them up with skills and tools so that they can navigate these situations as they're older. And that if they need help navigating those situations, that they can come to us and talk to us. Yeah.
Exactly. And if they've seen you be regulated, and if they've seen you actually kind of come home to yourself in a moment, like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
frustrated. What am I going to do? You know what? I'm
Mhm.
going to walk away, or I'm going to have a cup of tea, or I'm going to do a deep breathing exercise.
Yeah,
When they see you do that, then they can model that growing up because it's normal to them.
absolutely. And we want this to be the habit that they develop. Yeah.
Anything else you're doing with the book that you wanted to hit on today?
Oh, actually, maybe because I'm gonna be I speak English and French, of course, so I'm going to be translating it into French to
That's
hopefully
so
have
exciting.
released next year. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. I'm very
Tell
excited about that.
Tell me a little bit about your journey of going from wanting to write the book to having it illustrated, writing and publishing and printing it. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
It was such a journey, in fact. So I wrote it last spring and I just sort of sat down at my computer, wrote it out. It had been sitting in my head for quite a while, but I finally put it out on paper, electronically on paper. And I just sort of sat on it and forgot about it for a little while. Not forgot, but didn't do anything with it, just left it
Mm.
there.
It was cooking.
And yeah, because again, something that I've been doing in the past couple years since I had my heart surgery has really been to start believing in myself a lot more and saying, I'm not just going to wait for an opportunity. I'm going to make those opportunities and start
Mm.
doing the things that I've always dreamed of doing. So after a couple months, I sent it to two friends who are also therapists and also moms. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get their honest opinion on it. Is it garbage? Should we just put it in a drawer somewhere and never look at it again? But both of them were very much like, this is amazing. You need to get this out there. This is wonderful. One of them even said that she cried reading it and said, I connected so much with the character. So I joined the writing group on Facebook where we met. And I started connecting with other authors and illustrators. And I just loved the style of my illustrator I had gone on her profile, saw some of her work. It really spoke to me because there's texture to it. I don't know how
Mhm.
well you can see, but there's a lot of texture. There's a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
emotion. Yeah. And I really loved that. So I connected with her and she loved the project. She read the manuscript and said it really spoke to her as well. So she was happy to get involved with it. I had been originally hoping to have it ready for February, but I'm sure as you know, these things always take much longer than what we what we anticipate.
They
So
do.
now we're all ready to go and it's coming up May 24th that it's going to be available to order on Amazon. Yeah.
That's so exciting. And I know personally as a publisher and author, and I, edit my daughter's work. I mean, that so much work goes into
So much work.
creating a book. It is such a labor of love. And when you get it, it's almost like, oh, my child.
It feels like I gave birth to another baby. Yeah.
Yes, it really does. And as,
Yeah.
authors,
Mm.
please, if you enjoy Caitlin's book, please, leave reviews, interact with her,
Yes.
go to the website, because I can't tell you how much those reviews mean to us and encourage us to not only promote the book and get it to more people. So if it resonates with you, let authors know, let Caitlin know, because that really helps us. And then, it just inspires you to do it again and have the next book baby.
Absolutely. And I am hoping to have it ready for this time next year in French as well. So, yeah, there'll be an English and a French copy available. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so
Mhm.
exciting. And that's,
Mhm.
that's kind of the next step with books. Well, it's available in two languages, not just
Exactly.
one.
Yes.
And it's in the native tongue of the author, which is really important too for getting across what
Mhm.
you really want readers to get from the book.
Absolutely. And my family is bilingual. We speak two languages in the house. So it would be really nice to have both of those represented in my book. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Mhm.
special. Now,
Mhm.
one thing that I wanted to touch on with you as we're talking about, the challenging emotions, and we're saying it more from a clinical standpoint of how you've worked with patients in the past. As you mentioned, you recently had a health scare that you had to navigate and deal with your own emotions about, but also
Mhm.
parent really young kids who were on that journey with you as well. Tell me a little bit about your experience with that.
It was such an emotional journey. So I'm in a really good place with everything now, but for a long time it was quite a roller coaster. So I found out about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 now, that I have Wolff Parkinson White syndrome, which essentially means that there's a risk and a higher risk the older I get that of course I could go into sudden cardiac arrest for no reason,
Mhm.
because there's an extra wire connecting the two chambers of the heart, or the top and bottom part, I guess. And to sort of solve, or the best treatment course for this, I guess, is to burn that extra pathway. And so when I met with the doctor and talked about, what are the risks associated with this surgery, he said, there's a 1 in 1,000 risk of dying. There's a 1 in 300, or 1 in 300 to 1 in 400 chance that you're going to have a stroke. Depending on where the wire is, you might need a pacemaker afterwards. So, I mean, hearing this, my kids were 2 and 6 at the time. And I thought there's so many years ahead that I want to spend with them. Even having a stroke, I mean, if I'm here, but I lose some of my functioning or some of my memories, some of my ability to take care of them, I don't want that either. So
Mhm.
this was so frightening. And my husband and I had to have conversations too about what happens if. Like, let's be hopeful that it doesn't, but what happens if?
Mhm.
And I think for myself too, as a mother, knowing that he had a plan, because I'm the primary caregiver. I work part time, but I am the primary caregiver in our home and the
Mhm.
default parent. So to think, I mean, he is very capable. He would step in, but the hours he works and doing that as one person would be very challenging. He'd have to rework a lot of different things. But I
Mhm.
think having that conversation and knowing that there was a plan sort of eased some of the stress for me, that, okay, worst case scenario, it's going to be okay. But
Yeah.
navigating that with the kids, because then coming home, and I mean, I'm a mess of tears for the few weeks following that, because I'm just thinking about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if. So, and yet knowing that this was something that I probably should go ahead and do, and I did,
Mm.
because if I didn't, the risk of sudden cardiac arrest increases with age. And the anxiety for myself of knowing that if I don't do this, I mean, at any moment. So, how do I live with that anxiety then?
Mm.
So, I very much said to the kids, like, Mama's gone to the doctor, everything's okay. Because again, everything was okay for that time period. But mom is going to have to go have a surgery, and I'm feeling a little bit scared about it. So,
Mm.
sometimes I'm crying because I'm scared, because sometimes we
Mm.
cry not just when we're sad, but when we're scared too.
Yeah.
And so I really tried to enjoy those moments with them as well and soak in as many memories with them as I could up until that surgery. And then afterwards, I was still breastfeeding my 2-year-old, and I couldn't pick him up for a month afterwards
Mm.
because, of course, the where they go in through the
Yeah.
legs, they have to heal. So again, having that conversation, and he was sad about it and I was sad about it. So being able to sort of identify, you know what, I can't lift you right now, but we can snuggle. I can have you on my
Mm.
lap, you can climb onto me. You can
Mhm.
walk up to bed with me. Papa can carry you up and then put you on me. But yeah, it was definitely a challenging period, and really made me appreciate when we go through these things as parents, trying to navigate our own emotions and give them
Mhm.
attention and give them space while trying to hold space for our kids. And so it's also normal. And I think we need to give ourselves a lot of grace in those moments, that if we're not as patient, if we're not as calm, we're a bit more reactive. This is also normal because our space to handle, we're already up here. We don't have the space
Mhm.
that we normally would have. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And you are
Hmm.
modeling how to repair if you take the time to then go back and say, Mom was scared.
Yeah.
Mom behaved in a way that isn't really aligned with how she wants to behave, made a mistake. It happens.
Yeah.
Thank you for holding space. And that's something that I'm trying to do. I'd be interested in your impression on this. Instead of saying I'm sorry, it's important to say I'm sorry, of course, but instead of always just reflexively saying I'm sorry, saying thank you for
Mm-hmm.
understanding and holding space for me, and putting
Mm-hmm.
that other person in a position of you're showing gratitude to them rather than you're expecting their forgiveness. You're kind of
Mm-hmm.
asking them for
Mm-hmm.
something that maybe they're not
Mm-hmm.
quite ready to give you.
I completely agree. And this is something that I'm in the habit of doing with my kids too. And what I'll say to them as well is, thank you for telling me. Thank you for
Mhm.
being brave enough to tell me that, because that may not have been easy to tell me. Because
Mhm.
again, even though we have a very safe relationship, I'm an authority figure for them, right? So we want
Yeah.
our kids to be able to advocate for themselves and stand up. And if somebody says something to them that doesn't sit well, we want them to be able to come back and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not quite right. Actually, this happened, or, it's like this, or no, I wasn't comfortable with that. So I think it's really great as well when they can come to you and say those things. So
Mhm.
reminding them of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. And just your
Mm.
overall approach to empowerment,
Hmm.
not only of your child, but of yourself, because it all begins with you. We can't control other people. We can
Absolutely.
only model good behavior. And what I've heard today and during our last conversation is just having an opportunity to model our emotions, our relationship to our emotions in such a way that we're embracing them, good or bad. And then we are showing our children that that's okay. And
Hmm.
not only helping them in this moment with their emotions, but also keeping them safe and happy throughout their lives because they will accept and trust their emotions going forward as they go on through
Hmm.
life.
And I think this is our goal as parents, right? We want to set our kids up for as much success as possible down the road, and knowing how to advocate for themselves, trusting their emotions, trusting how they're feeling. They're going to do wonderful things with that ability. Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing your story about
Mm.
your recent procedure. And I'm so glad that it went well. And also, when I heard you talking about the planning, I had a sense of relief kind of imagining that for myself of like,
Mm,
okay, because, we don't know what could happen tomorrow in any circumstance. Okay,
absolutely.
now there's a plan. And that really
Mhm,
helps you move into the future
mhm.
with a lightness that you know that your partner, you have this agreement. And so I love that you not only did that for that procedure, but just, again, it allows you to show up in a different way as a parent when you're like, okay,
Mhm.
we have a plan and I can regulate my emotions because I don't have this anxiety looming over me because I've
Yeah.
dealt with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes too, this is it. We're sort of avoiding some of these hard topics because of the anxiety. And yet, when we confront it, it can be scary, but it also lightens that load and can ease the anxiety. Yeah.
Yes, I
Mhm.
agree fully. And so I love
Mhm.
that you are giving children and their parents and anyone else who is lucky enough to come across and enjoy your book, A Rainbow of Feelings, an opportunity to meet those emotions head on and develop a healthy relationship with their emotions that will serve them throughout their lives.
Thank you so much for having me here again. It's been so lovely again speaking with you.
Thank you, Caitlin. And I would love to have you back when you release the French book. I unfortunately don't speak French, but I don't, what we say with our kids, right? I don't speak French yet. So we'll see what next year
Yes.
holds.
Yes. Maybe by next year. Or
We'll see.
or it can be a good place to start.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. I'm so excited to get the book as soon as it comes out on May 24th, 2024. And I hope everyone else does too. And go get those free coloring sheets and enjoy them with someone that you love, or even by yourself with a cup of tea tonight to relax and embrace your emotions. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for part 2 of this wonderful 2-part discussion with Caitlin Sigouin about her book, A Rainbow of Feelings, and just embracing our emotions for a healthier, happier life for us and for the little ones that were around in our lives. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave comments and suggestions for us, and take care and stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Everybody's lonely, but you can hold on to me, and I will try to make it right. Everyone needs something. Let me be that one thing, and I will try to ease your mind. I can't bear another moment. I'm getting on 'cause there's nothing